The colossal warships emerged without a hint of warning in Earth's solar system. Sleek, silver, and vast, beyond any human construction, 27 vessels lingered in the void like dormant titans, their polished hulls glinting with the faint glow of sunlight. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kethvar fixed his gaze on the small blue sphere ahead. His scaled, reptilian visage betrayed no feeling as he examined Earth. This would be conquest number 10,847 for the Zepyrian Galactic Empire. Merely another primitive planet to claim. "Admiral," called his communications officer. "A transmission is coming from the surface." Kethvar gave a curt nod. It always began this way. The primitives would plead, bargain, or weep. Then, inevitably, they would kneel. The screen flickered, revealing a human woman in a crisp blue uniform. Her black hair was cut short, her dark eyes calm and unwavering. Behind her, he noted a command center filled with humans at their stations. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Coalition," she said evenly. "You have entered our system uninvited. State your purpose." Kethvar's brow ridges lifted. Most races crumbled when his fleet appeared. Yet this human showed no fear. Straightening his towering 7-foot frame, he replied with the weight of centuries of conquest. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the Zepyrian Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our civilization. Surrender your forces at once. Your leaders will meet me within one standard day to finalize terms of submission." Chen listened without expression. When he finished, she paused only briefly before answering. "Thank you for the information, Admiral. However, humanity declines. Your offer: you have 72 hours to leave our system." A stunned silence filled the Zepyrian bridge. Officers glanced at each other, uncertain. In over 300 years, no species had simply refused. "Perhaps you do not comprehend," Kethvar said coldly. "We command 27 warships. Each can annihilate your cities from orbit. Your primitive defenses cannot touch us. Submit, and your people will be treated well as subjects of the Empire." Admiral Chen inclined her head politely. "We understand you perfectly, Admiral. Our answer remains unchanged. Leave our system." Anger flared within Kethvar. Insolent primitives. They needed proof of power. He turned sharply. "Weapons. Target the massive asteroid in their belt. Designated series. Destroy it." "Yes, Admiral." A lance of energy burst forth, striking the 1,000-kilometer rock. It vanished instantly in a blaze of light, the eruption glowing like a newborn star. Kethvar returned his gaze to the screen, anticipating terror. Instead, Chen calmly spoke to someone off-screen before facing him again. "We have acknowledged your demonstration, Admiral. Now observe ours." 3 sparks of light flared near his escort ships. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Imperial vessels were simply gone. No flash, no wreckage, nothing. The bridge erupted in confusion. Officers scanned frantically, but no trace remained. The ships had been erased by weapons no sensor could register. Chen's voice cut through the panic. "Admiral Kethvar, you now have 71 hours, 37 minutes to withdraw. This is your only warning." The transmission cut. Kethvar stared at the blank screen, stunned. In 3 centuries, no primitive foe had ever destroyed even one ship, yet humans had erased 3 as if brushing aside vermin. "Admiral," his science officer stammered, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures spread across their system." Whatever weapon that was, they possess many. Kethvar's gaze returned to the blue planet. It no longer seemed frail. Something was dangerously wrong here. Worlds far stronger had fallen, yet Earth wielded impossible weapons, invisible to Imperial eyes. "Send to High Command," he ordered harshly. "Request full battle group reinforcement." The comms officer hesitated. "Admiral, Asking aid against primitives will ruin your reputation. High Command expects swift conquest. Kethvar's eyes burned toward the space where 3 ships had vanished. Send it. Around him, the crew scrambled, desperate to comprehend the impossible. Deep beneath the lunar surface, Admiral Chen watched from Earth's hidden command facility. 30 years of secrecy had built the colossal installation. Arrays of computers processed data from sensor webs scattered across the system. "That was impressive," said General Martinez as he approached her station. "But you know they'll return with more." Chen inclined her head. "Of course." "They will," Chen replied. "We've been preparing for this moment for 27 years, ever since we charted their expansion pattern. They assume we're just another primitive race waiting to be conquered." She turned toward the tactical display where icons marked the Zephyrian fleet. "They have no understanding of what humanity is capable of when cornered. They've spent centuries subduing species that folded after the first display of strength, but they've never faced an enemy that refuses to yield." Colonel Park reported from the weapons console. "Asteroid belt platforms performed flawlessly. All 17 are online for the next engagement. Mars orbital defense is fully armed, and the Luna facility is operating at peak efficiency." Chen allowed herself a thin smile. "Good. When they return, they'll bring more ships. They believe sheer force is the ultimate answer. They're about to discover how wrong that belief is when applied to humanity." She moved to the large viewport, Earth glimmering beyond, serene, radiant, like a jewel. But beneath its calm surface, billions prepared for total war. Factories labored day and night forging weapons. Soldiers drilled with tactics designed solely to counter alien armies. "They wanted to see humanity's response to threat," Chen murmured. "I think they're about to witness it." On the Zephyrian flagship, Admiral Kethvar received confirmation that his message had reached High Command. Their displeasure was evident, but they dispatched reinforcements. A full battle group would arrive within 10 standard days. Watching the blue planet, Kethvar felt something alien, uncertainty. These humans were unlike any opponent the Empire had met. Fearless, armed with inexplicable weapons, they defied all logic. "Admiral," said his intelligence officer, "I examined their transmission. The background was unusual." Kethvar frowned. "Explain." "The broadcast originated from inside their moon. The construction required immense industry and decades of work. It suggests deliberate military preparation." The Admiral considered grimly. Most conquests struck species with no warning, but these humans had anticipated this day. "Keep monitoring their channels. I want every scrap of information before reinforcements arrive." As his ship lingered in silence, he wondered if conquest number 10,847 would truly be as routine as the rest. Something told him otherwise. 10 days later, the reinforcements appeared. 135 warships emerged from hyperspace in flawless ranks, a force 5 times stronger than his original fleet. Surely this armada could crush stubborn Earth. At its head loomed Fleet Admiral Drexor's colossal flagship. Older and more scarred than Kethvar, Drexor was infamous across the Empire for quelling rebellions with brutal efficiency. His voice thundered across comms. "Admiral Kethvar, explain how primitives destroyed 3 of your ships." Choosing his words carefully, Kethvar replied, "Fleet Admiral, these humans are no ordinary primitives. They wield advanced energy, weapons, and show no fear. They have been preparing for our arrival for decades." Drexor laughed, a rasping sound that unnerved the bridge. "Preparing. What could primitives create that threatens the Imperial fleet? Have your centuries of easy victories made you soft?" Before Kethvar could respond, the communications officer interrupted. "Admirals, we are receiving a signal from the human world." The screen lit, revealing Admiral Chen once again. Calm, composed, her command center buzzed behind her. She looked straight at Drexor. "Fleet Admiral Drexor of the 4th Battle Group. Welcome to our system. Your reputation precedes you. We know of your conquest of the Centauri colonies and your siege of New Titan." Drexor blinked, startled. These primitives knew his record, though he quickly masked it. "Then you know resistance is hopeless. Surrender now, or I'll show you why 100 worlds have fallen to me." Chen dipped her head politely. "We've studied your tactics in detail, Admiral. Your reliance on overwhelming frontal attacks. Your use of fear as a weapon. Your bombardment of civilians to shatter morale." Drexor sneered. "Then you know you cannot win." Chen's voice sharpened. "On the contrary, Fleet Admiral, we know exactly how to defeat you. You've spent centuries fighting peoples who collapse when faced with superior numbers. You have never fought a species that treats war as evolution." The transmission cut before Drexor could answer. He glared at the darkened screen, seething. Primitives dared to lecture him about warfare? "All ships, attack formation," he thundered. "We will teach these humans what it means to defy the Empire." The colossal armada surged toward Earth like a rolling storm of steel. 135 warships spread in flawless Imperial battle formation, a sight that had brought terror to 1,000 conquered worlds. Yet as they entered the inner system, anomalies began. Vessels on the flanks reported strange energy readings, then silence. Entire ships vanished. No distress calls, no wreckage. Others reported sensor interference from unknown sources. "Fleet, Admiral," the tactical officer shouted. 17 ships lost, no explosions, no hostile contacts detected." Drexor's eyes narrowed at the tactical display. The disappearances were spread widely across the formation. What weapons could erase ships so cleanly, undetected? "Maintain course," he snarled. "Keep formation." The fleet pressed forward into the asteroid belt. To the Zapiarians, it appeared nothing but rocks and empty void. They had no idea they had sailed into the most extensive minefield humanity had ever engineered. Without warning, the trap was sprung. Dead asteroids suddenly awakened, their stony surfaces splitting open to reveal hidden weapon platforms. Blinding. Beams of energy erupted from dozens of angles, lashing into Imperial hulls. But these were not Chen's true weapons, only diversions. The real threat prowled unseen. Human strike craft, small, agile, cloaked by stealth fields, glided through the dark like predators. Each carried the power to cripple a cruiser. "Enemy vessels decloaking!" the Zapiarian sensor officer cried. 50! No, 100! Over 200 ships! Even as he spoke, many faded again into invisibility, their attacks sudden and lethal. They struck once, vanished, then reappeared at random to attack anew. Drexor stared in disbelief. He had never witnessed anything like this. Humans fought unlike any race in Imperial history. No rigid formations, no attempts to match brute firepower. Instead, they struck everywhere at once, then dissolved back into the void before counterfire could land. "Concentrate fire on visible targets," Drexor barked, but there were none. Whenever weapons locked onto a human vessel, it disappeared. Sometimes it reappeared behind the Imperials to unleash devastation. Sometimes it never reappeared at all, leaving the crew to wonder if it lay waiting for the perfect strike. The engagement dragged on for hours, but it was no battle. It was a hunt. The Imperials were the prey. Every time they thought they had fixed the enemy's location, the humans were already gone. "Fleet Admiral!" the damage officer cried. "We have lost 68 ships, human casualties, only 12. Drexor's scaled fists clenched. The report defied belief. His Grand Armada was being methodically dismantled by an enemy they could scarcely detect. Meanwhile, deep within the Lunar Command Complex, Admiral Chen watched the unfolding battle with grim satisfaction. The human fleet fought exactly as intended, swift, invisible, and merciless. Each vessel was crewed by only a handful of operators, its maneuvers guided by advanced AI systems capable of feats impossible for organic reflexes. "Admiral," Colonel Park reported urgently, "the aliens are attempting to pull back to long range to bombard the planet directly." Chen's cold smile returned. "Show them why that is a mistake." As the Zephyrian ships withdrew, they discovered the moon was not what it appeared. The entire lunar surface bristled with hidden weapon arrays, all now powering up. Titanic beams lashed outward, striking the retreating fleet. Yet Luna was not Earth's only fortress. Mars, fortified for 30 years, revealed its true form. As a planetary arsenal, its surface covered in weapons reaching across the void. Even Jupiter's orbit teemed with automated defenses. Drexor's horror deepened as realization struck. The entire solar system was a trap. Every planet, moon, and asteroid had been transformed into armament. The humans had not merely prepared for war, they had reshaped their home system into the largest military bastion in the galaxy. "Fleet Admiral," his shaken comms officer said, "Admiral Chen is transmitting again." The human admiral appeared, but now flanked by officers in uniform, all composed, all observing with professional calm. "Fleet Admiral Drexer," Chen began, 70% of your fleet is gone. Withdraw now." "Impossible!" Drexer roared. "You are primitives. You cannot defeat the Imperial fleet." Chen's expression remained unchanged. "Fleet Admiral, you made one fatal assumption, that lacking an empire meant lacking mastery of war. In truth, our understanding surpasses yours. You rely on numbers and technology. We prevail through strategy and the will to fight." Her voice remained steady, yet carried a chilling weight. "You have seen what humanity does in defense. Do not make the mistake of learning what we do when we hunt." The transmission ended. Drexor turned to his tactical readouts, staring at the broken remnants of his armada. In all his centuries of conquest, he had never conceived of such defeat. "Signal the retreat," he muttered. As shattered ships limped from the system, Admiral Chen faced her staff. "Send word to every colony and monitoring station. The Empire knows we exist. Phase 2 begins now." General Martinez regarded her gravely. "Sarah, they'll return, next time with their entire armada." Chen nodded. "I expect them to. We've shown we can defend our home. Now we will show them what happens when they endanger humanity's future." She gazed at the stars beyond the atmosphere. Out there, the Zephyrian Empire ruled thousands of worlds and commanded trillions of lives. They believed their vastness made them untouchable. Soon they would learn why size meant nothing against a species that had spent millions of years refining the art of bringing down prey far larger than themselves. Word of the defeat surged across Imperial space like a firestorm. On countless worlds, subject species whispered in hidden corners about the humans who had dared strike the Empire. For the first time in centuries, beings who had abandoned hope began to dream of freedom once more. Emperor Zexthal sat rigid on his crystal throne within the heart of the imperial capital, staring at reports that chilled his blood. Fleet Admiral Drexor had limped home with scarcely 30 ships out of 135. The humans had not merely won, they had made it look effortless. "Your Imperial Majesty," his military advisor spoke carefully, "perhaps our stance toward this human world should be reconsidered. No other race has ever inflicted such losses upon imperial might." The Emperor's eyes burned with fury. Standing 12 feet tall, cloaked in golden scales, he had ruled for over 2 centuries. No primitive world would humiliate him. "No," he thundered, voice echoing through the throne chamber. "If one world resists us, others will follow. We rule through fear. If fear breaks, we lose everything." Rising, he towered above his advisors. Mobilize the Grand Fleet, all of it. I want 50,000 warships, not the pitiful force we dispatched before. Annihilate these humans. Leave no survivors on their world. The advisors exchanged uneasy looks. Never had the Grand Fleet been deployed against a single planet. It was the Empire's final weapon, meant to crush entire galactic civilizations. Majesty, the advisor warned. The Grand Fleet has not been called together in half a century. It will take months to assemble ships and crews. Then begin now, the Emperor snapped. I want the most formidable military armada in history aimed at this insignificant world. When we finish, no trace of humanity will remain. Yet even as Imperial preparations began, intercepted transmissions revealed something that unsettled his advisors further. The humans were not planning to flee or conceal themselves. They spoke instead of something called Operation Endgame. On Earth, Admiral Chen faced the largest assembly in human history. Every head of state, every military commander, every scientist, tied to the defense effort, was connected to the summit. The survival of the species now hung on their choices. The Emperor has called his Grand Fleet, Chen declared. Our analysts estimate 50,000 warships, possibly more. It is the greatest armada ever gathered in galactic memory, and it comes here to erase us. Silence fell. Even the most hopeful leaders grasped what those numbers meant. Humanity had bested Imperial detachments before, but those were minor fleets. 50,000 vessels was an unimaginable storm. Yet Admiral Chen's voice cut through. We are no longer the species that cowered in silence after first contact. We have been preparing for this day. Every colony, every orbital station, every deep space facility has worked toward one objective, showing the galaxy what happens when our home is threatened. She activated a holographic display of the solar system, but not the solar system the Empire believed they knew. Hidden shipyards near Jupiter came alive, revealing immense construction yards built in secret for decades. Mars opened to expose underground factories spanning continents. Even the moon cracked wide to unveil the vastness of humanity's fortress. Ladies and gentlemen, Admiral Chen continued, this is Operation Endgame. For 30 years we have reverse-engineered every scrap of Imperial technology. We studied their strategies, their frailties, their very psychology, and we have forged a fleet built for one purpose, to fight the Zephyran Empire. The projection shifted, showing human vessels unlike any seen before. Gone were the small raiders that had harassed Imperial patrols. These were titanic warships, each woven from technologies of a dozen alien races, elevated by human innovation and resolve. How many? General Martinez asked. Admiral Chen's grim smile answered. 15,000 warships plus 10,000 support craft, automated defense, platforms, mobile weapons, and the most advanced AI command net ever designed. The chamber erupted in voices. President Williams of the North American Union raised her hand for silence. Admiral, she asked, can 25,000 ships truly stand against 50,000 Imperial warships? Admiral Chen's face grew deadly serious. Madam President, you are thinking as the Empire does. You're tallying ships, comparing numbers. For centuries, they've conquered with superior technology and overwhelming force, but they have never faced a species that treats war itself as an art. She strode to the holographic display, indicating a section of human fleet maneuvers. The Empire designs their vessels for spectacle and raw firepower. Ours are built with one purpose, destroying Imperial ships. They fill their warships with millions of beings who surrender when the tide turns. We crew ours with humans who would sooner die than yield. They fight to conquer. We fight to survive. She turned back to the gathered leaders. But above all, the Empire has never encountered an enemy that adapts instantly. Every battle they've fought follows the same script: Arrive with bigger guns, demand surrender, crush resistance. They have no experience facing an opponent who learns mid-fight and grows deadlier with every exchange. Chen activated another display, this one showing human manufacturing capacity. Our ships are designed for rapid refit and upgrade. Our weapons can be altered between engagements. Our strategies shift the moment we understand their moves. When 50,000 Imperial ships come for us, they will be repeating history. We will be fighting in ways they cannot fathom. She paused, letting her words sink in. And there is more. Our psychological warfare teams have studied Imperial communications for decades. They rule through fear, but that makes them vulnerable to fear. They have never faced an enemy immune to intimidation. They cannot comprehend fighters who only become stronger when threatened. General Martinez rose. Admiral, if we fail, what happens to the colonies, to Earth, to everything we've built? Chen fell silent, then spoke with steel in her voice. General, we will not fail. The Empire believes they are predators stalking prey. They are about to discover they've stepped within reach of predators themselves. Humanity evolved as persistence hunters. We are the species that chased mammoths across continents until they collapsed from exhaustion. We are the species that made warfare into science, art, and philosophy alike. She gazed out the viewport at the stars. The Empire has never fought humans before. Now, they are about to learn what that means. As the assembly dispersed, Admiral Chen entered her private office. On her desk waited a report from deep space monitoring stations. The Imperial Grand Fleet was on the move. 53,000 ships, the largest armada in recorded history, were advancing toward Earth. Chen's lips curved in a cold smile as she opened a channel to every military site in the solar system. All stations, this is Admiral Chen. Operation Endgame is active. The Empire wants to see how humanity responds when cornered. I say it's time to show them. Across the solar system, human warships emerged from hidden strongholds. Asteroids, disguised as weapons platforms, came online. Secret defense arrays entered final readiness. But Chen knew the war would not be won by ships alone. Victory would come from something the Empire could never grasp: humanity's unshakable refusal to surrender. The Imperial Grand Fleet arrived at the system's edge like a storm of metal. 53,000 warships stretched across space, so vast it took minutes for light to cross their formation. At its core loomed the Emperor's personal flagship, a vessel the size of a small moon. Within, Emperor Zexthal gazed upon the blue world through magnified screens. There would be no warnings this time, no posturing. Humanity would be erased. Your Majesty, his fleet commander reported, all ships in formation. Long-range scans confirm significant human activity, but nothing threatening to a force of this magnitude. The Emperor nodded. Humanity had surprised them before with tricks and traps, but no primitive race could withstand the unified strength of the Empire. Advance, he commanded. Erase this system. Every planet, every moon, every asteroid, reduce it all to dust. Leave nothing where humans could survive. The massive armada surged forward, a display unseen in galactic history, the full force of an empire spanning half the galaxy aimed at a single world. But as the fleet pushed deeper into the solar system, Admiral Chen observed from her lunar command hub, surrounded by thousands of officers directing the greatest defense network ever built. She had spent 3 decades readying for this very hour. Imperial Fleet maintaining standard formation, Colonel Park reported. No adjustments for prior encounters. Chen nodded, exactly as expected. Centuries of victories through sheer force had left them rigid, incapable of change. She opened fleet-wide comms. This is Admiral Chen. The Empire has brought everything to destroy us. They think numbers make them invincible. Today, we prove why humans never surrender. Across the system, human ships took their positions. These were not the small raiders of earlier battles, but war machines crafted with 30 years of stolen knowledge, engineered precisely to slay Imperial vessels. The clash began near the asteroid belt. Imperial scouts found what looked like a small human fleet. As they closed in, the ships shifted, modular sections detaching, reconfiguring. One vessel split into many smaller craft, others fused into massive gun platforms. "What are they doing?" the Imperial commander demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied. "Majesty," his commander said with dread, "we've lost over 8,000 ships. They've lost fewer than 2,000. Impossible. Zexthal's empire, centuries supreme, was being broken by primitives who should barely grasp advanced technology. "All ships, maximum firepower. Ignore their fleet. Target their planet directly." But as the Armada pressed forward, they met a horror greater still. The inner solar system itself had become a fortress. Every world, every moon, every major rock bristled with weapons reaching across space. Earth's moon revealed the greatest military base in human history. Mars split apart to uncover underground factories centuries in the making. Even Venus, hidden beneath its clouds, bristled with autonomous defenses. "Impossible," Zexthal whispered, staring in shock. "They've turned their entire star system into a weapon." The battle hit its peak as the Imperial fleet became trapped inside the system's heart. Behind them, human ships struck their rear formations. Ahead, every planet and moon bristled with weapons, while around them, smaller human vessels slipped. In and out of sight, hitting without warning and vanishing before return fire could lock on. Admiral Chen oversaw the fight from her lunar command center, watching as 3 decades of preparation unfolded in flawless precision. Human warships functioned with skeleton crews and advanced AI, executing maneuvers no organic pilot could survive. When Imperial ships attempted ramming tactics, humans rammed harder. When the aliens tried to crush them with sheer numbers, humanity used that very mass to sow chaos, creating confusion and even friendly fire across the Imperial lines. Standing beside her chair, Admiral General Martinez declared, "Their formation is disintegrating. Coordination is gone." Chen observed as the once perfect Imperial fleet dissolved into disorder. Warships designed for rigid formation warfare were being forced to fight alone. Commanders raised on centuries of doctrine suddenly faced an enemy without any doctrine at all. "Signal all ships," Admiral Chen ordered. "Initiate Phase 2. Across the solar system, human fleets shifted into strategies no Imperial had ever encountered. They ceased fighting like soldiers and began stalking like hunters. Human ships shadowed Imperial vessels for hours, charting patrols and crew rhythms, striking only at moments of maximum weakness. The psychological toll was devastating. They had come expecting a conventional battle against a weaker foe, yet, instead, found themselves prey to an enemy that anticipated every fear. "Your Majesty," the Imperial Communications Officer reported, "we have over 200 surrender requests. Many captains beg for permission to retreat." Emperor Zexthul stared at the display, stunned. His grand fleet, the jewel of his reign, was collapsing. Worse, reports streamed in from the far reaches of his empire. Word of humanity's defiance had spread, igniting revolts across subject worlds. "Sire," whispered his intelligence aide, "we now confirm uprisings on 17 Imperial planets. They believe that if humans can win, they can as well." For the first time in his reign, Zexthul saw the specter of defeat. His empire, crafted from terror, was unraveling because one insignificant world refused to submit. Around Earth, Admiral Chen received priority alerts from deep space arrays. Human colonies galaxy-wide reported identical patterns, Imperial forces retreating from the frontier to defend the core. "We are winning," Admiral Colonel Park stated. "The Empire is withdrawing across its territory." Chen studied the remains of the Grand Fleet. Barely 15,000 vessels still functioned, many crippled. The greatest armada in recorded. History had been broken by human resolve and ingenuity. Yet she knew the real triumph was not military, it was psychological. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized the Empire could bleed. "Open a channel to their flagship," Chen ordered. The image of Emperor Zexthul appeared, golden scales dulled with humiliation. "Emperor," Chen said firmly, "your fleet is defeated. Withdraw, or it will be annihilated." He glared, eyes blazing. "Impossible. You are primitives. The Empire cannot fall." Later, Zexthul sat in his throne, staring at reports once unthinkable. His battered fleet limped home with fewer than 12,000 survivors. Over 40,000 of his finest warships had been destroyed or crippled by a single world of so-called primitives. And worse, rebellions spread like wildfire. Races subjugated for centuries rose with sudden hope. The myth of imperial supremacy shattered. "Majesty," his minister reported, "over 300 worlds now rebel. They believe humanity's victory means they can break free." The emperor closed his eyes. In 2 centuries of rule, he had never known such peril. Fear. The empire's foundation was dissolving like fog under sunlight. "What do our spies report of humanity?" he asked. The minister hesitated. "Majesty, they are reverse-engineering imperial designs with staggering speed. Their yards build hybrids of dozens of species, each enhanced by human ingenuity. At their current pace, in 5 years their ships will surpass ours. At best, we have 3. Cold dread gripped Zexthul. In 5 years, humanity would outpace them. In 10, they might threaten the imperial capital itself. "Summon the War Council," he commanded. "We must end this threat before it grows beyond control." Yet before the council could convene, something unimaginable happened. Every communication channel in the imperial palace activated simultaneously. Screens across the citadel lit with one figure, Admiral Sarah Chen, calm within her lunar command seat. "Citizens of the Zepyrian Empire," she began. Chen spoke, her voice echoing across the imperial capital and into every colony within their space. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Coalition. I bring a message to your rulers." Emperor Zexthul froze in disbelief as his most secure networks betrayed him. Humanity had not merely broken his fleet, they had seized the heart of his empire's communications. Calm and unshaken, Chen pressed on. "For centuries, your empire has ruled through terror and brute force. You have enslaved species, annihilated cultures, and spread fear like a plague. That ends today." She locked her eyes on the lens as though staring straight into Zexthul's throne room. "Emperor, humanity now delivers its ultimatum to the Zepyrian Empire. You have 30 standard days to accept. First, cease all expansion and free every world taken in the past 50 years. Second, withdraw all forces to your original borders and dissolve your puppet governments. Third, pay reparations to those you have devastated." Silence fell over the throne chamber. The emperor could hardly comprehend it. Primitives dictating terms to the empire. Chen's tone hardened. "If you reject, we will bring this war into your core systems. And know this, we are far more dangerous as hunters than as prey." To prove her reach, Chen revealed a tactical projection displaying major imperial worlds. Around a dozen key planets, including the capital, glowing markers appeared. "As you see," she continued, "our fleets are already embedded across your territory. We know your shipyards, your supply chains, the weak points of your economy." The display faded, but the threat remained. "You have 30 days. Choose wisely." Then the signal cut, leaving Zexthul staring into black silence. His council exchanged horrified glances. The impossible was reality. The empire was being dictated to by those they once sought to enslave. "Majesty," said his military advisor, "our scans showed those human ships only briefly before they vanished. Our defenses could not hold them." The emperor saw the truth. Humanity had been preparing for decades, studying weaknesses, forging weapons tailored to end his empire. Days later, reports poured in. Human vessels appeared without warning at key installations, mapping defenses, then vanishing before imperial response. The meaning was undeniable. Humans could strike anywhere. Worse, their psychological war was spreading faster than official decrees could contain. Across dozens of systems, whispers rose of the fearless humans who had humbled the empire. "Majesty," reported the governor of the Riel sector, "control is slipping. Subject races speak openly of rebellion. Even our own troops question whether we can shield them from human vengeance." Zexthul moved to the great window, gazing over the shining capital that had stood for 2 centuries as the heart of galactic dominion. Now it felt like a target, waiting to burn. "Your Majesty," said the communications officer, "sector governors are requesting authority to negotiate truces with the humans." Rage flared. "You mean to say imperial governors seek surrender to primitives?" The intelligence minister answered softly. "They are not primitives. Our studies confirm their technology now rivals ours, in some ways surpasses it. More importantly, they wield something alien to us, unyielding resolve. They do not retreat. They do not yield. And they never bargain from weakness." Zexthul weighed his fading choices. He could reject and fight, but humanity had already proven capable of annihilating his forces. He could attempt to negotiate, yet even that would admit the empire could be forced into compromise. Or he could yield, knowing that surrender would fracture his dominion as worlds declared independence. On Earth, Chen received intelligence reports across the galaxy. The empire was splintering. Rebellions were erupting faster than the Imperials could suppress. Most crucially, the aura of invincibility sustaining Imperial rule was evaporating. Martinez reported, "Long-range monitors confirm large Imperial troop withdrawals. They're abandoning frontier garrisons to fortify their core." Chen nodded. "Good. Every ship recalled leaves another world free. Every system that rises weakens their empire." She turned to Earth's view, its blue sphere gleaming like a jewel. It looked serene, yet she knew humanity was forever transformed. No longer a species confined to one world, they had become something new, a people who refused conquest. "Colonel Park," she asked, "status of deep strike assets?" "All long-range fleets ready, Admiral. Any Imperial target can be hit within 72 hours. Chen's expression hardened. The Empire had 25 days to choose. If they refused, humanity would show them the hunter's face. On the 29th day, Emperor Zexthul yielded. Across the Empire, broadcasts declared compliance with humanity's demands. Imperial forces would withdraw, reparations would be paid, and expansion would cease. Yet Chen knew the real triumph was not the Emperor's surrender. The true victory was the sight of countless liberated species celebrating, their chains broken. The galaxy had witnessed the Empire fall to determination, invention, and an unshakable will. Watching the celebrations unfold, Chen allowed herself one quiet breath of satisfaction. Humanity had not merely defended Earth. They had altered the balance of galactic power forever. The Empire had learned what happened when they threatened humanity. Now the galaxy would see what happened when humans chose to hunt.